Hey guys, and welcome back to Weaver's Woodshop. This week I'm going to take this pile of scrap wood, and instead of burning it in the fire pit, I'm going to burn it into a Sho Sugi end table. But I'm going to put a couple little twists, and you're going to have the chance to laugh at me a little bit and watch my mistakes as well. So here I am right now. I have had to mill this wood down. Like I said, it was all different kinds of wood. We've got pine, we've got cypress, we've got cedar. We've even got a little bit of Cuban mahogany in there. It was all different kinds of dimensions and lengths and widths, and I had to mill it down and get it all to mesh together. I've even got a round cedar post in there, and I got the different grains going different directions on purpose. Honestly, I was just trying to see what I was coming up with. And then I was burning it with this Sho Sugi bond, and it was just kind of an experiment to see what was going on. So again, here I am with the Sho Sugi bond, and the Sho Sugi bonds really kind of interests me because, hey, who doesn't like burning stuff, right? And so here I am with my propane torch, and with the burning, the slower you go, the darker, the more charge you get. The faster you go, the lighter it is. And as you can see, the different woods, they do burn differently. The more veins that you expose or don't expose, and it's really pretty cool the way that you can get the different things going here. And you can already see a little cutout that I have where I'm going to inlay some of that Cuban mahogany a little bit later that you'll see. Videos and get the opportunity to laugh at me like you're going to get in this video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe, and don't be afraid to share this video either. Thank you. And as you can imagine, when you burn all this, it's going to leave a char that'll get all over everything. And as you can see, I'm going to show you, here's a clean hand. Then you run your hand across it, and look, all of a sudden there's a dirty hand. That's all right, we're going to take care of that. All you do is you take a little wire brush, and you just brush it off. You brush all that char off of there, and it actually changes the tone just a little bit. Goes from a deep, dark, charred look, a burnt look, to a nice, almost chocolate milk looking kind of charred look. And you brush it off with that wire brush, and then you take your rag and you wipe it off, and you do that until it's clean and it doesn't come off on your hand anymore. Or you could use two rags, use one to wipe the char off and another to check it with. And then once you get that clean surface, here I go to check it again. There's a clean hand. So now we're good to go. Then move on to the rest of the surfaces that are charred up. And now I just want to blow it off there a little bit, just get a little bit of a cleaner work surface, get all that char off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready for that Cuban mahogany inlay that I'm going to do on it. The reason I want to do that inlay is because we've got all that burnt surface now, that dark surface. I did not do the Sho Sugi bond to the mahogany, so it's hopefully going to be a nice contrast with the dark of all the burnt wood and the light color of the Cuban mahogany. I hope it's going to be a nice contrast, and so that's what I'm doing now with the router. I've got, I believe, a 1/4 inch little cutout bit on there, and I'm just working away at it. And I ended up finding a much easier way, something that's not throwing those wood chips back in my face like that. But I wasn't real sure what the best way to go about this was, but so yeah, it would have been a lot faster doing it the way that I ended up doing it. But hey, you got this router, and I like the router, so I figured why not use it? Put that little scrap piece of wood on there kind of as a stop, so I wouldn't go too deep and wouldn't go too far. And it ended up working out. There's a little hammer, ended up getting a chisel out to try and help clean it up. But it ended up working. Just ended up finding a way to do it a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and gave me a real clean cut by the time I figured it out. Still haven't quite gotten to that easier part yet. I'm still messing with the router, trying to dig down and get that inlay part for that mahogany ready. And but I'm about ready to switch over to that part where I'm like, oh wow, this sure was a heck of a lot easier. Why didn't I do this from the get-go? So here I am getting it ready. I got the table flipped over to the side. Oh, bless you, Matt. Anyways, got to clamp down so it's not going anywhere. And here it comes. Oops, got to tighten them clamps up just a little bit more. And here we go. The Sawzall, of course. I guess when you got the fancy tools like the router, like I said, you just got to use it. But the Sawzall, man, it worked great. It gave me a nice cut. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It cut that down, and like I said, it gave me a nice smooth surface. And all I had to do was get that chisel back out and just pop that piece of wood off there just like that. Turn the end table around and did the same exact side to, or the same exact thing to the other side. Bada boom, bada bing, I was good to go. Since I've cut all that wood off from where I'm going to inlay the mahogany, now I've got to go ahead and burn it and wire brush and, wipe it off just like I did the rest of the table so it matches as I get done. So that's what I'm doing here. I just burnt it. Now I'm wire brushing it, and now I'm wiping it down with the rag, so everything matches. And now here I am with the mahogany, going ahead and marking it and cutting it and getting ready to glue it in there. And you can see what I'm going here for, where the mahogany is going to finally be. And again, like I said, I think this mahogany, since I did not burn it, I think it's going to give a nice contrast for the top of that end table. And here I am clamping and gluing. So we're ready to get this thing rolling here. And now I've taken the clamps off, and I'm going to go ahead. I decided not to use the orbital sander here because I was afraid that with the charred wood and the non-charred wood that I would end up kind of sanding the charred into the uncharred grain, and I would kind of end up making that mahogany just not look good by just grinding that charred into the wood grain here. So I'm sanding it by hand. First I sand the charred pieces, and then I go ahead and I clean off the piece, and I'm sanding it with 220, and I sand all of the charred stuff, and then I clean off the sandpaper, and then I go ahead and sand that mahogany, which is not charred, and I sand it all down with 220 because I am going to end up pouring epoxy over the top of it. So that's what I'm doing here. Now here I am getting ready to put the form up there. This clamp isn't quite long enough, but I'm trying to make it. I'm just using MDF that's covered with that Tyvek tape or house wrap tape or whatever you want to call. And as you can see, I've got the one form board just kind of propped up with some 2x4s and scrap wood. That clamp isn't long enough either. So here we go. Here's a clamp that's long enough. I don't want to screw these boards into the edge of that table because I don't want the screw holes that I'm going to have to deal with after. So right now I'm just trying to clamp them in there and put the caulking in and hoping I can get that to work. I'm not sure at this point what's going to happen. So we're going to see what happens here. So here I am just, treating it just like normal, pre-drilling those holes, screwing the form boards into themselves here, again, not into the side of the tabletops, and that's what I'm doing here. And now I'm going to take that door and window trim caulking, and I'm going to go ahead and put it down all the seams and cracks, both on the inside and outside of the form, to try and make sure I get 0 leaks on this form. Again, I have not screwed the form to the table. I'm using those clamps to try and create that pressure, plus the caulking, which I always let dry overnight regardless, even though it is quick dry, to try and prevent me from having to put any screws in it. Like I said, I did screw it to itself there on the edges, but I do not want to have to deal with any screw holes in the table when I get done. So using those clamps, I'm hoping that'll be the same. So again, you'll get a chance to laugh at me here in a little bit, or maybe you can already see what I'm doing and you're already laughing at me. So if you've gotten a good laugh, or if you're just enjoying this video and maybe learning something from it, even if it's learning what not to do, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and feel free to share it too. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my finger and make sure that that caulking's down in those seams good. Again, I have not screwed this into the table at all. I want to do my best to make sure there's no leaks in this table. So did you figure out what it was yet that I may have done that was a little bit of a brain fart? Again, I'm going to pour epoxy over top of this table, and again, I think it's going to look real nice, that contrast and everything. But what I did, which typically wouldn't be an issue, is I used white caulking. And some of that caulking's still going to end up underneath of that epoxy. I just will not be able to get it out. So that white epoxy on top of that blonde or natural mahogany there, and on top of that burnt, that Sho Sugi bomb, whatever you want to call it, the rest of the wood, it just wouldn't look good. So here I am taking all that white caulking off, because like I said, it just would not look good at all. So that's what I'm doing. Man, look at me go. It must be that shirt I'm wearing. So if you didn't notice that shirt, hey, go Hawkeyes. So Coach Gable, Coach Tom and Terry Brands, yeah, shout out to you. Go Hawkeyes. Good job this year. Good job last year. Too bad that season got cut short. And if you guys happen to watch this, dude, oh my God, that'd be freaking awesome. Go ahead and give me a like and share. Tom and Terry Brands and Dan Gable, give me a share. Give me a follow. That would be awesome. That would make my day. I could die a happy man if you guys did that. So here I am. I've obviously gotten all that white caulking off, and now I'm putting the form back on there, because now I'm going to use some black caulking. There I am putting the black caulking on, and I'm going to do the same thing with it. I'm going to put it on there, go ahead and press it in with my finger, and we'll be good to go. So here it is, the next day. The caulking dried overnight. I'm mixing up the epoxy, and we're getting ready to go. Wearing my Mountain Dew shirt, because you know, me and my twin, Coach Gable, again another shout out. Sorry, but anyways, getting ready to pour it for the first time to see what happens. If I had to do it over again, though, I would use clear epoxy, not black epoxy, because clear epoxy, I don't think you'd be able to see it at all underneath this, and so it would have been good to go. So here I am actually pouring it on and getting ready to spread it around, and mix it up just like tabletop, you know, no thicker than 1/4 inch with my epoxy. My epoxy that I use, my epoxy of choice, is Wise Bond. So far I've had real good luck with it. So Wise Bond, you can check it out, or use your own brand of choice is fine. You know, and that's just what I started with and what I have good luck with. And so now I'm just mixing it around, and not really big enough to use my little 1/4-inch trowel there. And I believe right about here is where I see my first little oops. So keep a lookout here, and then all of a sudden I say, hey, what is that? Where is all that epoxy going? Oh my goodness. Uh-oh, I'm even talking to myself there, because there happens to be a little hole there where all the epoxy is draining out. It looks like bathtub, and you pulled the stopper in the bathtub. So I went and got some screws to try and shove it down in that hole to the best of my ability, to try and at least slow it down, stop it up. By that time all the epoxy was in there, so I was just going to go with it and see what happened. So that's what I did. And so I went ahead and went back to, going ahead, and it's self-leveling epoxy. So we're going to see what happens. Well, my whole idea of not screwing it to the table and using the clamps to try and not get any leaks wasn't working too good, especially around the round cedar posts. It was definitely leaking there. And here I am using some more caulking, shoving it up where it's leaking to try and get it to stop leaking. Because again, the epoxy was in there at this point. I really didn't have much of a choice, and I was just shoving it in there and using my finger to push it up in there and do the best I can. At least, I didn't know what to expect, epoxy and caulking and whatever, to just try and slow it down, and all I could do was put it in there and see what happened the next day. So now I got my torch out and doing it just like normal. Well, I didn't have to wait till the next day to see what the outcome was. Within minutes, I noticed something on the bottom of the table. This is what I noticed. There were drips, there were streams, there were all kinds of things, and this is a picture I took within about 10 or 15 minutes of pouring. All right, be sure to click on part 2 to see how this thing turns out. Thank you, guys.